dialed your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1, Vienna Airport, hoping for the best. The Youngstown Warren Regional Airport is shooting for a $500,000 federal grant to help lure an airline that will fly to commercial airline hubs. Now, according to a local report published June 21st, the Western Reserve Port Authority submitted an application for a small community air service development program grant. The money could help establish at least 6 weekly flights that would carry about 30 passengers, according to one Vindicator report. The story is still developing. That's why I made it this week. Story number 2, $3.5 million for the Boys and Girls Club. One headline referring to new funding for the Boys and Girls Club has proven to be newsworthy. The money will be used for renovations and an outdoor park improvements. Now, there are some big plans in this package, which also includes the expansion of STEM programs already in place at the club. The story is still developing. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3, why it's hard to overlook violence in Youngstown. City violence is not uncommon, but in Youngstown it's hard to overlook because of the demographics and logic. Now, the age group of the victims and suspects are also a concern. The numbers and logic just don't seem to add up, folks. The ethnicity factor has also been mentioned in multiple reports dealing with this factor. These races, creeds, and colors. Now, drugs also have played a factor because so many of these crimes have been linked to drug use. So let's think about that. Now, federal dollars have been poured into the city. It means there's a lot of money that's been invested in Youngstown, yet there still seems to be problems. Now, if it's because of poverty remains a mystery, because spectators are asking, how do you afford tattoos, cigarettes, beer, guns, weed, and even drugs if you're in poverty? The story is still developing and really has a lot to do with the human psyche and how humans are developing over time, especially in the inner city. The culture is just becoming rugged, and a lot of people have their eyes on this story, especially when it comes to violence. So story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4, Hubbard is another community looking to levies. A $4.1 million levy to raise money for fire and ambulance services has made headlines in Hubbard. Hubbard adds to a growing group of local communities trying to account for the growing demand for emergency services. The cost is what has these stories trending. The story is still developing. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5, tax levy for ambulance service in Campbell. Local communities have noticed that ambulance services can get pretty pricey. Now, according to a local report, the city of Campbell is looking for an emergency ordinance of $3.6 million levy to address the community's ambulance shortage. Now, according to the report, if the ordinance fails council president, if it does not pass, basically that's plain and simple. If it doesn't pass, Council President George Levindis says locals may have to get in their car instead of calling an ambulance. So he's basically putting it straightforward. You might have to just drive to the hospital, especially if it's an emergency. The story is still developing. That's why it made it this week. Big headline. Story number 6, $318K in projects for Youngstown. Youngstown City Council is still trying to spend the ARP funds funds on city projects. There have been consistent headlines in circulation, but the most recent has to do with the money to spend on improvements such as security cameras and additional lighting at City Hall. Now, one article goes all in, and it even goes far enough to even mention database management software to increase public access, improve case management and efficiency, enhance efficiency in the city. This is all in the article. Now, a report published before the fight to address funding promises made headlines on June 17th, stating the amounts. Here's some big numbers for you. $55,000 to Youngstown Neighborhood Development Corp. to sponsor 5 students to assist Beyond Expectations Barber College. It goes on to $100,000 more to renovate the closed Foster Art Theater. The story is still developing as the debate and money talk goes on, especially when it comes to ARP funds. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Extra, read all about it. We've got Justin Jennings, we've got Tito Brown. Read all about it. Extra. Let's get to these top 2 stories. Story number 7, the funding fight. City Council. City Council in April agreed to give each of its 7 members $2 million in ARP funds on projects in their wards, according to a Mediator report published June 22nd by David Skolnick. Now there's tension after city administration officials told council members that just because they approve legislation to spend American Rescue Plan dollars, it doesn't mean the projects in question will be funded. Now, this is what the article says. The article is a good read for those trying to understand the ARP funding fight. It goes in detail and explains a lot of the spending and grievances in regards to the funding. That's why story number 7 almost made to the top this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. Born into the womb of a West, raised up to the sun by the prophets and told to mediate to the masses. Oh boy. And here I am giving you the top 8 through mediation. Ooh-wee! Story number 8. Yes, sir. Story number 8. Ohio's $86 billion 2-year state budget. The budget includes money to tackle funding for universal school vouchers, income tax cuts, and public assistance programs. According to a report by the Mediator published June 16th, a proposal consisting of 7,000 pages is stuffed with policy changes geared towards K-12 education, vaping, social media apps, and diversity mandates at public colleges and universities. The local report goes on to mention where the money will be spent. 7,000 pages. Dang! That's a lot of reading, if that's a fact. Now, it's a very detailed report that's worth a read. That's why story number 8 made to the top this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories, so don't you go anywhere. You're in the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, a lot of people are kind of concerned about marriages, and we're in a day and age where a lot of people just don't seem to want to be tied down in relationships, and this is some serious stuff, and I didn't know how serious it was. I went over a friend of mine's house, and he's been married for quite some time, and I didn't know what was going on. He kept coming around, peeking around the corner when I came over, and I was just chatting, and shh, shh, and I'm over in the corner. What? She can hear you. Who? Don't bring the beast out of her. Oh, it could get frightening. So I'm sitting over in the corner. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, who this guy talking? You talking about your wife? Yes. She can get very angry at times like this. Be quiet. Be very quiet. So that's when I started realizing this marriage stuff is serious. Serious to the point to where men are hiding in closets, staying away from their wife, hiding their finances, their paychecks. They're hiding in fear that their wife, in these hard, trying times, will spend all of their hard-earned money. And they don't have the money nor the wherewithal to get a divorce. Some of them are cheating. It's a very sad revelation, folks, where we've come to. Ooh, know and love the way I do. I can say for certain that it's true. There's still a chance for me and you. Don't give up. Marriage ain't that bad. If you survive, if you make it out, sometimes you may need each other in the end. Who knows? It's all a mind game. Who knows? Well, folks, that's our story for this week. Simeon and Joseph sit in a tree. Joshua and Simeon, Kising. That's a boy and a man. That's a girl and a man. A woman and a man. Simeon and Joseph. Let's get to it. Story number 1, the pictures that change what we thought about space. Fortune Unity has some interesting videos discussing all of the attention that has been in the most recent movies talking about string theory and the multiverse. If you didn't know, the James Webb Telescope stumbled across some interesting photos that dispute the already controversial theory of the Big Bang. Now, after the most recent discoveries, everything taught about space has opened up a Pandora's box about how complicated things actually are. If you don't know anything about this stuff, it's very complicated, unless you do know about it. Things are so complicated that at the moment, there's no explanation. The complicated mathematics and the continued debates and money poured into exploring new worlds in the universe is what got the story in. The story is still developing. That's why story number 1 made in this week. Even marriage could change the universe. Big B headline. Or is it simple? Man and a woman. That's basically what it is. Big B headline. Story number 2. God sent me to planet Earth to mediate to the masses, to create simplicity and logic to the universe, to stay informed. Story number 2, the long history of blacks killing blacks. Ooh, this is a big story. June 19th marked a day in history, American history, that marked the end of slavery. Now a new fight is brewing in American history, a day to stop African Americans from harming other African Americans. That's the day. Now, those who have knowledge of the slave trade know all too well what this means. An article published in 1983 by Victimology says that homicides were the leading causes of death for African Americans. Now, in about 80 to 90% of the cases, the black victim was killed by another black, and about 52% of the murder victims had a psychological disorder. Now, this report is from 1983. That's how I got in. Now, according to the most recent stats, these numbers continue to remain consistent, and the Black Lives Matter movement seeped into the already embattled justice system, already drenched in controversy when it comes to African American studies. Now, analysts will be observing new data coming in as Black Matters seem to be a mission that only Black people in America can fix. Maybe some Caucasians and some other people, some other ethnicities, but right now it's a Black problem because Blacks are getting blacks. We as a Black people are killing ourselves, and the biggest question is why. 6 teens were shot in a June 19th celebration in Milwaukee, according to one CNN headline. That's what got the story in. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Big. Story number 3, the spontaneous lithium-ion battery. The lithium-ion battery is convenient. Yes, it is. But it has one issue, and that has remained in the headlines on occasion. And that is the fact that for some reason, some of them spontaneously start fires and explode. Some of them explode. The story crept in after 4 people were killed in a NYC e-bike store, that's New York City e-bike store, due to lithium-ion batteries. Now, this is according to the fire commissioner. The story is still developing as more lithium batteries that are made, the more these stories seem to be popping up. Big. Story number 4, the gun debate continues. An unborn child and an Ohio mom were shot and killed by the mom's 2-year-old son. Even though the incident was an accident, it is keeping the gun debate in the headlines. People are having a hard time when it comes to managing guns. This is a fact. These are cause and effect situations, folks, that keep popping up in the headlines, sparking more news about the gun debate. The story is still developing. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. Go to the website. It's method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor the program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, everybody has got a ritual. You know, you see a lot of rituals in religion. You see a lot of rituals in sports. And being a veteran, I see rituals in the military. Being around God-fearing people, I see people pray, On first Sunday, they drinking wine for the blood. And right now, I'm starting to see a lot of rituals. A lot of people doing things and putting makeup on before they go on camera, wearing the same T-shirt, spinning around in circles and licking their fingers before they go into battle. So there's a lot of rituals, people putting anointing oil on, drinking olive oil. But I found this out, even in the Bible, there's rituals. You have people running around the gates. They'll talk about the gates or the walls or some walls of Jericho. So I guess rituals are important to people. Every religion has some type of ritual. It's been going on for years. So I decided, to study and figure out where these rituals were coming from. Some rappers would even, I think it was Biggie Smalls, would eat chicken wings before he'd go into a music session. I guess these rituals even go in the form of criminals. Some people have rituals before they decide to take other people's life. This is some scary stuff. Well, it makes you think. They talk about all these rituals on TV, secret societies, and it makes you think when I have to study these stories, are there really rituals out there? Is there really two forces combating? And seeing all of this negativity and all this fighting and war, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. So every week, I even stumbled across a ritual about a hospital where I was born at. So I'm starting to believe in these rituals. So before I do the show, just like I've done all my life, is before I come in here, I'll listen to a bunch of gospel music tracks, and I'll dance around, and sometimes I even get bucket naked and dance around in the room and jump around and shout just to get the demons out before I do the show, you know. Heavenly Father, cast them out. And that's probably where the power comes from to mediate, you know. Rituals, think about it, you know. Somebody's got rituals, you know. Before you go into battle, you got to get purified and cleansed in the blood. You got to do something. This is the topic this week. Good rituals and bad rituals. There's got to be something special about you doing what you do. So find something to do. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Housing costs, homelessness, plus inflation is a bad deal. Speaking of rituals, it costs a lot of money to live in California, and 1/3 of the nation's homeless population lives there, according to new research. 90% of reports that the cost, 90%, that's what's reported. They're saying that, and they're saying that the cost of housing was the main reason they could not escape homelessness. So 90% of the people in this report that are homeless, they're saying that that's what the factor is. They can't afford housing. Now, this story is keeping the affordable housing debate in the headlines. Democrat presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has proposed using federal housing vouchers to combat the homeless problem. Kennedy used addiction in West Virginia as a main talking point for his solution. This story is still developing. That's why I crept in this week. Big head. Story number 6. Doing a ritual, baby. I'm dancing in circles, trying to cast out the evil spirits so we can get a blessing. Story number 6. People are turning on public officials. There's a reason. Another ritual, baby. Public officials. Let me do my dance. Get it out, get it out, get it out. 100 letters containing a white powder was reported to have been sent across Kansas, according to officials. No injuries have been reported so far, folks. According to a CNN report, the letters with the powder read, "It's important not to choke on your ambition." Somebody's trying to send a violent message to those who serve in the public. It was also signed by a secret sender. So far, no motive has been reported. That's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week, because even public officials are under the radar, and there's something happening in this report. Big. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news story that made it this week. Doing my ritual dance, baby. Ooh, yeah. Get it out. Get it out. There's a guy who gets on my when I upload the show. I think his name is Soul Man. If you're out there watching Soul Man, you may not agree with everything I say, you know, but I'm glad you enjoy the show. And he let it be known, you know, some of these brothers, they be hard on me, man, because they don't agree with everything I say. But like I said, that's the beauty of America. But he does put a lot of good comments on my page. That's why I got a shout out to Soul Man if he's out there. I hope you agree with some of the stuff I say. Like I said, I may not appeal to everybody. I tend to lean to the right, a little bit conservative. I like my tomatoes in a nice corner on my plate. But like I said, I guess. But I'm glad he watches the show. I never know who's watching the show, but Soul Man made me think about it this week. So I'm gonna do my dance when he sent me some of his tracks. Ooh, the Soul Man. Yeah. Story number 7. Charitable giving is falling and inflation is to blame. This story I got in because Soul Man says he's a Christian, and a lot of Christians are in the donation battle. Some Christians will give their life to see other people live, and that's the belief. Now, due to high inflation and slumping stocks, U.S. charitable giving fell for the first time in decades. The number is as high as 499 billion, folks. That's a lot of money, which is down 3.4% from a record year of donations in 2021, according to Giving USA 2023. Now this is also added to the reference because this is the annual report on philanthropy for the year 2022, and this is in Giving USA. That's what the article, what the name of, if you want to find the article, that's where it's at. Now, the staggering blow dealt by COVID-19, the wars in Ukraine against Russia, and the embattled marriage between America and China is what got the story in. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big head. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made this week for Soul Man. I get up, I get on up, I stay on the scene like a mediator machine. Woo! Story number 8. Foreign policy is on the top of the agenda, folks. After President Joe Biden compared China's Xi Jinping to dictators in one piece by CNN Politics, foreign policy remains at the top of the agenda, folks. The piece goes on to mention how spy equipment was found in the balloons that were shot down over U.S. territory. The Russia-Ukraine war is also a concern as cries, and the crisis continues. These cries are for diplomacy. The crisis is war. So these cries continue for diplomacy. People are just saying, we just need to get along. Now, each conflict is causing mass strains on the global economy, and as inflation continues to eat away at people's pocketbooks. This story is still developing as everyone continues to plead for global tensions to die down. You think they get it by now? I mean, we were on the verge of going through wormholes, and now we're on the verge of poverty. A lot of countries have just given up in on the fight. That's why Story Rate made it this week at the top. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the mediator, the man in the middle, navigating your stories just for the public. If you want to show some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street, buy something in the store. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just for you. I saw my mother's neighbor. She's a little girl, and she wrote in the driveway that she said something about the end of the world. So these kids are watching, folks, and I pray that we give them something to look forward to. A little baby. She's not even probably 5, 6 years old yet, but she has some chalk in the driveway. She's probably just started school, and she wrote something about the end of the world, folks. I hope we get it together, and I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to The Mediator with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.